And good morning. Well, thank you for tuning in. This is the first episode of Southwest Flavor. We are discovering the people of the Southwest, who they are, what they do, and why they do what they do. Our guest today is Zach Yetzner with the Tucson Metro Chamber. Welcome, Zach.
Good morning, and thanks for having me on as the first guest. It's a lot of pressure.
No pressure at all. I knew that we would be able to fill an hour with some intriguing conversations. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And congrats on everything. This is a beautiful space and not your first foray into radio, and the portfolio keeps growing. So
yeah, that's exciting.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So what do you do at the Tucson Chamber?
I'm the Vice President of Business Advocacy.
Okay.
And other places often call it Government Affairs or Public Policy, Vice President of Public Policy. We call it Business Advocacy because there's a wide variety of what we do to advocate for businesses that is even beyond just government affairs, but that's my day job.
Wow, okay. That is so important. I mean, the small businesses here in the community need someone to advocate for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, we want to be the bulldog for business and not only create a great space for companies and businesses to grow their book of business, to network, to meet new businesses. Pre-internet, chambers of commerce were the place.
Yeah,
they put on the events, they spread the Rolodexes around, they had the books of business. That's where you went to meet other businesses and to hash out issues. But chambers of commerce have and continue to be so much more even than that, of being that local bold advocate for what creates a great environment where your business thrives and your community prospers. Right. And in Southern Arizona, I think the business community needs those kinds of organizations more than ever, because for all the amazing things about this place that are good for starting a business, there's a lot of challenges. There's some roadblocks that need to be removed. There's some strategic forces at play that make it harder than ever, locally, state, and nationally, to run a business. And I mean, I'm preaching to the choir. This is, Ron, not for you. This is for the audience. You've lived this and your business is thriving. But we want to make sure that there's an environment for more businesses to thrive, for more businesses to live out the Picture Rock story. So
right. Well, yeah, we definitely want to have a healthy business environment. I mean, if everyone is healthy and doing well, then it's just better for the whole community.
Yep.
Yeah, we want businesses to be able to be there for the people so that people have a choice to where they want to go, where to shop, and get what they need.
That's right. Yeah, where commerce leads, progress follows. And that can be community progress, but that's also progress. When you have a job, you can provide for your family, you can buy goods and services. And guess what? Cities and towns live off, in large part, sales tax and property tax. So if you're able to buy a home, if you're buying goods and services, more money in more people's pockets because where they work is thriving, creates thriving across the community. And again, it feels like preaching to the choir. You know this and I know this.
Right.
There's a lot of people in our community that don't realize that thread of how successful, thriving businesses help sustain successful, thriving people, which sustains successful, thriving communities.
Yeah, that's right. Anytime that I have a small business myself, and anytime that we hire someone, we take on that responsibility of basically feeding that person's family.
It's a lot of pressure.
It is. It's a lot of pressure. We need to make sure that they have work every day so that they can get their hours, and then also the training and making sure that they're healthy and relatively happy, what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Just so that they can have an overall good life and go home to their family and provide for them.
It's almost cliche, and I think sometimes it's used as a pejorative, and I don't mean it this way at all. But if you've been in a position where you've signed the front of a check, you know that you sleep differently. Yeah. Often not for the better. You think differently. Yeah. The challenges and the struggles are different than when you're signing the back of the check. Now, no one is better or worse than the other. Right. But when you think about what it means to be a business owner, it is a daily thrill ride where you are crying and you are laughing and you are joyful in the same exact day. Yeah. And you go to bed knowing that you have to get up in the morning because you've got 5, 10, 50, 100, 250 people who are depending on your ability to succeed in that day. And as I work with different jurisdictions around the community, county, city, state, there is just a different way of viewing the world that you have when you sign the front of a check.
Yeah, you're right.
And again, no one is better or worse than the other, depending on which side of the check you're signing.
Yeah.
But I think if more people were serving even in elected office, certainly in Southern Arizona, who knew what it was like to sign their front of a check,
Yeah.
I think our policies would be different.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what I get to do in my job, is to make sure that, I can call, and we're lucky to have good relationships with city and county officials, and to call and go, hey, wait a second, I just need to make sure before you vote on this that you know kind of what the front of the check signers are thinking.
Right.
Do you have this perspective? And if you have it, is it going to change maybe in a way that is needed the decisions that you're making? So I always try to celebrate business owners, because it is hard in general.
It is.
But
Yep.
it is harder in some ways in Tucson and Southern Arizona than in other places. And not enough people say thank you for the sleep you lose and the brain cells you utilize and what you do to make sure that there are thriving people that create thriving communities. So
Right. I've seen quotes before that if you go into business, you're doing what you would normally do for 40 hours for someone else, you're doing 100 hours for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And most of those hours are free.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're making sure that the people who sign the back of the check are getting the money often before you do.
Oh, yeah.
I've been in that position.
You're always the last one to get paid.
I've been in that position myself. I bring that perspective to play. You are the leaders eat last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. So you mentioned about state representatives too. Do you have much with the state representatives?
Somewhat. I mean, as you know, Ron, the Tucson Metro Chamber, we used to do a lot of DC fly-ins. We used to we had 2 lobbyists on the payroll driving up to Phoenix during the state
I did not know that.
session. But it hasn't been true for about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And the current president and CEO, Michael Gaiman, when he stepped in, and his predecessor immediately before him, right around that time that there was that handoff, there was a decision to say, look, we've got great partner organizations in the community, like Southern Arizona Leadership Council. We have great partners in the Phoenix area, like the Greater Phoenix Chamber. We need to make sure that we're using our resources wisely. And so we pulled back our resources to be focused about 95% of the time on just city, town, and county jurisdictions here in Southern Arizona. So we are a 95% completely local chamber.
Nice.
Now, we also know that what happens at the state and even national level has local impacts.
Sure, affects us too.
So you can't just put your head in the sand and pretend that stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But in terms of, our members are investing in the chamber, and that there is resources to support our advocacy work on behalf of those members, we wanted to make sure that those resources were being used effectively. And so we are almost completely local, and there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do.
There is a lot of work to do, both state, national, and locally.
There
but
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to be local and really look in your backyard and try to make that better. That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So, what did you do before this? Because you've been with the chamber, I think you said
14 months.
14 months.
At time of recording.
Okay. Yeah.
It was end of July.
End of July of last year. All right, 2023.
Yeah.
And what did you do before that?
I had a membership association that I was a part of. I actually got the opportunity to be the first executive director of it.
Okay.
It's called Tucson Young Professionals. It's been around in Tucson since 2007, 2008. The mission was to retain, attract, and promote professionals 21 to 45 years of age in Tucson and Southern Arizona. And you know what it was like here in 2007, 2008. There was massive brain drain out of Tucson from the Great Recession.
Yeah.
The U of A was not as sticky for our young talent, as I'm thankful to say it is now. And Tucson just wasn't a place where a lot of people 21 to 45 were thinking, I'm going to put down roots here. I can sustain a family. I can buy a home. I can do all those things. It just wasn't that place. And so TYP, Tucson Young Professionals, was organized to be a community that would support ourselves and support the smart growth vision for Tucson to be that place where we had good wages, good infrastructure, a good economy. And there was 120 members when I jumped in as kind of the interim executive director, real first-time plunge. for the organization after 12 or 13 years to having a full-time staff member.
Wow. Yeah, you were the first paid employee, right?
I was.
Yeah.
I was. We had about 120 members. And over about a 5-year period, up until last year when I stepped away, we had grown to almost 1,000 members.
Wow. That's huge.
It is 1,000 members today. We had about 30 community and business partnerships, and was really proud to work with a great board over those years to develop an organization that really pulled together our young talent, young professionals together in the community. So like the Chamber, Chamber is a 501c6.
Right.
It's technically, I'm air quoting for people who can't see, it's a nonprofit, but it's a membership-based nonprofit. So rather than philanthropic dollars and grant dollars funding the staff and the work, it is membership dues and members sponsoring events and things like that. So like the Chamber,
it's more
TYP,
like a not-for-profit instead of a nonprofit.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, it's almost like you're the board chair of a Chamber of Commerce.
I know a little bit about the chambers.
Ron knows a little bit. So yeah, not-for-profit. So TYP was set up the same way.
Okay.
So all that to say, faster answer to your question, Ron, was doing a lot of neighborhood and community work, really working at that intersection of housing affordability, talent retention, economic development.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my community work. And then my day job was helping to grow this organization called TYP. And then I also had the opportunity for 4 years, maybe 5. I get those two mixed up. I was hosting a daily talk radio show on a local station in town. It was called Tipping Point.
Yeah.
And it was really this look at the community of the decisions we make in the next 5 or 10 years will shape the next 50.
Sure.
So what are those important issues, and are we making the right decisions? And Ron, it was so cool by the end of it. This one took me a couple years, so it doesn't sound as big as it is. But by the end of it, the day before I ended that show, I had Governor Doug Ducey on the show.
Oh, wow.
So it started out as a weekend program on this local radio station, and it grew to a point where I was getting to have folks all the way up to the governor's level come in the studio or come on the air and talk about Southern Arizona.
Very nice.
And so this chamber role to me is all under one roof, kind of what I've been doing for the last 10 years in 2, 3, 4 different ways. Now it's one role. So getting to step in with that community experience, the community work, working on the same issues the chamber cares about, but then also having that experience watching a membership organization grow has been really fun to also bring to another membership association.
And how many members is the Tucson Chamber? Is 1,400?
We're at 1,400.
Okay.
And that is 150,000 people.
I had a couple questions for you about the TYP. One of them was you mentioned about affordable housing for the younger generation. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And the phrase that I like to use even more is housing affordability.
Okay.
Because when we talk about affordable housing, we can get into, what percentage of what number makes it affordable, and it's based on area median income and so on and so forth. But our focus at TYP was, and at the Chamber too, it's actually the same, is how do we increase the housing stock across all levels of housing, so that it reduces pressures on all the other types and creates enough supply where the demand is balanced so the prices aren't as crazy as they were. And so that's what really happened, after COVID, is the supply chains, shifted, the workforce shifted. And so you had all these people who wanted to move in and out of homes and not enough housing, being developed. And, what I think was interesting, Ron, is last year, about this time, we did a small business listening tour at the Chamber, where we actually went, we reached out to our members and said, we're going to do a listening tour stop for our members in each of the 5 Pima County districts, just for geographic parity. And we reached out and we had members in each of those 5 county districts say, hey, I'll host one. I have the room to host.
Wow.
And then we would invite our members to come to that member business, and we would just ask a couple of open-ended questions of what are the challenges to your business, and what about the environment of doing business in the county is challenging to your running a business. And there's a few things that we heard that we hear every year. I mean, businesses are smart to ask for good infrastructure, good regulatory and taxation policy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 2 things we heard with an urgency that we hadn't heard before. One of those was housing affordability. So it was interesting for me in 2016, I was doing some community organizing work in neighborhoods around housing affordability. And I'm going to air quote again, the business community
Yeah.
wasn't quite there yet in seeing what neighborhoods were seeing around the shortage of housing supply, the cost of housing going up, and how that would push communities in and out of neighborhoods that had been there for a long time. But we could tell in 2016 that we were approaching a housing crisis.
Oh, wow.
COVID with or without standing, we were approaching a housing crisis because we were not building enough housing in Pima County and in the state. And we heard from employers last year that the cost of housing was now impacting their business.
Oh, yeah.
Because their workforce is now looking at basically like, look, Ron is paying me this, and that's what he can pay me.
Yeah.
It's just not enough anymore to afford rent or to afford a mortgage. And that was shifting ability to retain workforce, and was becoming an issue for our employers in the region. And so TYP and the Chamber, encourages our local jurisdictions to ease zoning regulations, to allow for smart density, to get creative in different overlay districts, and to make it faster to build more housing. And that is not only housing that builds out appropriately, but also housing that builds up. And it's everything from single-family homes to multifamily, but it's also affordable to workforce, to market rate, to even luxury. There's kind of 4 or 5 different categories, and we're short on all of them. We're short on all of them, and it becomes a real limit to staying in the region and staying with employers.
Okay. Do you see Tucson and Pima County growing a lot, or has it slowed down?
No, I think the growth is going to continue. We've seen the growth continue. I mean, we probably will never be as fast as Phoenix, and we should probably be thankful for that.
Yeah.
But the state of Arizona does these projections over the next 25, 30 years. And the state of Arizona estimates on the high side that Pima County could grow as much as 50% by 2055.
Wow.
So that's basically 500,000 more people in the next 30 years. And I've always thought, and I said this on my radio show when I was doing, I said, that is how every city council meeting should open. That is how every board of supervisors meeting should open.
Right.
That's how every town meeting should open is, hey, in 30 years, we're going to have 500,000 more people than the million-person county that we have now. What decisions are we making today that will make that work?
Right.
Because the only way you can stop growth is to build a physical barrier around Tucson, which is absurd, but it's the only way, or increase taxes to an obscene level that nobody wants to come and stay.
Right. Yeah.
Neither option is viable, workable, or meaningful. Yeah. So growth is going to come. Growth is going to happen. We're seeing it. We'll continue to see it happen. It's now a question of, are we making the right decisions and policies to achieve that growth well in a way that is sustainable for everybody?
Yeah. I mean, we need to keep up with the infrastructure. That's for sure. I mean, that's one of the things I think. It seems like the city of Tucson and Pima County hasn't kept up with the infrastructure up until, seems like a few years ago. At least Pima County has really stepped up, and they've been doing a lot of neighborhood roads. The roads that are in front of our house, they weren't done for 30 years, and then they're redone this last year, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
So to that point, really fast, we were in favor of Pima County shifting to they call it PAYGO, pay as you go, and so every budget cycle there is an ability to allot more in certain ways to road repair.
Okay.
And so I think as you mentioned, Ron, you've seen the result of that. That's, I think, the smart way to go about it.
Yeah.
The city of Tucson has had to go the kind of more, raising money from the public route.
Okay.
So Proposition, I think it was 411, was the latest renewal of something that was started in 2017, which was to repair roads. Mayor and council in Tucson said, we want to touch 100% of all neighborhood roads over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. It's aspirational. We'll see if it happens or not, but there was money raised for that. And to your point, there were roads in some wards of the city that hadn't been touched in 70 years, 70.
Wow.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And as newer jurisdictions, we have seen Moran and Oro Valley, I think, do a good job keeping up with their relatively new infrastructure.
They do. They do a wonderful job.
I'll end by saying this because I want to make a plug for it, and I probably will until May of 2025.
Okay.
The Regional Transportation Authority,
The RTA.
which was passed by the voters in 2006,
Right.
is up for renewal next year and
Yeah.
no later than 2026. And there's a lot of, healthy, vigorous debates about how beneficial it is and is it working. At the end of the day, we need to make it work.
Right. We have to.
Because that money from the voters goes to building the new infrastructure to support and maintain the growth
Right.
that is happening. It's money that the jurisdictions alone can't put in,
Right.
but it is infrastructure that benefits everybody. So the Tucson Chamber, as of today, is a healthy and avid supporter of renewing that RTA.
Yeah.
Because guess what, Tucsonans? If we don't pass that and retain and continue what we've been paying for the last 20 years, the Regional Transportation Authority, that money goes back to Phoenix.
Yeah.
And Tucsonans and Southern Arizonans sometimes don't do a good job of retaining the resources that we could have locally to maintain infrastructure.
Right.
We're not as incorporated as Phoenix. So in terms of the state shared revenue and HERF math, all these formulas
Right.
that impact the street outside your house getting done.
Yeah.
And we don't think about it, but we have to be smart. And I think being smart here means continuing that Regional Transportation Authority because infrastructure is huge.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. And if you want to look at some of the RTA projects, some of the big projects, you can look at the Ina Road overpass, the Prince
Yes.
overpass, the
Yes.
overpass over at Orange Grove that they're doing right now.
Yep.
They're going to start working at Country Club and I-10.
Yep.
I think probably early next year. They're going to redo all of that. So at the Houghton Road
Yep.
overpass.
Yep.
So, I mean, those are big projects, and they're projects that were needed for a long time.
And if you don't live in a city or town, if you're listening to this and you go, I'm not in Marana, I'm not in Tucson, I'm in Pima County, the only way that you can raise like a sales tax to fund more road infrastructure is by a 5-0 vote on the Board of Supervisors. Not going to happen.
Wow.
So actually, the failure to pass a continuation of the Regional Transportation Authority actually hurts unincorporated Pima County residents
Even more.
even way more.
Yeah.
So, if you're listening and you're in an unincorporated Pima County, this is vital that you get behind this and make it happen.
Right.
It's the only likelihood you're going to get major infrastructure investment over the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah. And myself and my family, we've been living in unincorporated Pima County for the last 30 years.
Okay. So
So we know, yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely know. And we're thankful that we've had really good response from Northwest Fire and from Picture Rocks Fire and from the Sheriff's Department. I mean, they've all been really good to work with whenever something's needed in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're thankful.
Yep.
Yeah, so we should get back to talking a little bit about the chamber. It has 1,400 members, as we talked about. Let's talk a little bit about ribbon cuttings and networking events, because ribbon cuttings is a big thing, especially for a small business that's just starting out.
Yep.
You guys do a really good job of coming in and just making it a big event for that.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because we talked about in the beginning how the Tucson Metro Chamber, as the Metro Chamber of the region, really takes seriously its role to be the advocacy and policy chamber. We're really that bulldog for business.
Right.
One of our board members says, you need to be the meat shield for business, right? You need to be the organization that proactively guards and protects our member businesses.
Right.
We can go be that voice of business, and we can take the heat and we can take the pain and freeze you guys up to do what you do every day. So that's some of the vision there. But the ribbon cuttings are a great representation of what we are doing at a very tactical business level. And we do ribbon cuttings for businesses of all sizes. But you think about the fact that you have a new business coming to town. You can contact the chamber, or you're a business that is been around for 30 years and you want to celebrate that, or like y'all are about to do, open up a new physical location. I hope you reach out to us for us to do a ribbon cutting for that. You've been around a while, but you have a new thing going on.
Right.
So that's why we do ribbon cuttings. But you think about the fact that you can reach out to our team and we can make sure that elected officials are there. We can make sure that media is there if you want. We bring the scissors, we bring the ribbon cuttings, and we bring our ambassadors. We have about 30 ambassadors of people who are just out there in the community supporting small business and talking about business and talking about the chamber. And you get this big old party at your business that gets a lot of eyeballs on it and can celebrate this big new thing happening. That's a lot of momentum for a new business venture and a lot of eyeballs. And imagine having the mayor next to you cutting the ribbon. I mean, it's huge. Or you can also get elected officials on the ground celebrating new business, and it really brings a new lens for them too on, oh, this is why I do what I do, so they can do what they do, and what my decisions I make help this business open today, but also stay open into the future. And so it's always fun. It's always a big party, and then little things like all of our ambassadors get to have we have a physical book. Like you slip business cards in. Oh, okay. It's super old school. Yeah. Really fun. And each new business gets that book where all of our ambassador businesses are in there. Okay. So whatever I didn't know that. Services you may need, there's probably an ambassador doing it. Wow. And so it's these little things that celebrate business, create business, grow business networks. And so we try to be clouds and dirt. We try to be, high level. What's a great business environment look like? How do we fight for that? Okay. And then we're very boots on the ground of celebrating the day-to-day openings and changes in business and celebrating that. And so if you're listening and you're a chamber member or you want to be, let us know. We'll set up a party for you. It's so much fun. It's one of the best parts of my job. It is. I have been involved with so many ribbon cuttings, both with all three chambers, with the Marana Chamber, the Oro Valley Chamber, and the Tucson Metro Chamber. And it not only introduces us to that business, whether it's a new business or an existing business, but it also just helps form the relationships. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And Tucson's a relational community. It is. It's so relational. It is. I'm a big cyclist. I did 24 miles this morning on the loop. Yeah. But pretty much almost everyone that I cycle with, I've met networking. Mm-hmm. And pretty much they're all from the chambers. They're from one of the chambers. Mm-hmm. So, Tucson is a huge relationship. Totally. Yeah. Somebody said, this phrase is popular. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Right. More importantly, it's who knows what you know. Yeah. I heard that for the first time a few years ago. I'm like, whoa, that's a good one. Yeah. It's who knows what you know, right? Who knows what Ron knows about the business that Ron is in. Right. That comes through networking and relationships, and chambers are still one of the best platforms for those conversations and relationships to form, from ribbon cutting to whatever is next. Yeah. So you also have networking events. We're talking a little bit about relationships. Let's talk a little bit about the networking events. We do. I mean, we have a few major events every year. Mm-hmm. We have a State of the Region coming up where we'll hear from mayors and board supervisors and kind of the policymakers that are shaping the region. We've had in the past like State of the City and State of the State. This is an evolution of that. And those are, of course, big events where there's hundreds of people. Yeah. But every month we do things like a speed networking, which is much smaller but way more intentional. We have people signing up to have, quick conversations together. And then we have a monthly breakfast event called Good Morning Tucson. And we brought that back. It was very popular back in the day. We brought it back, and it's 6 or 7 speakers on 6 or 7 different topics for 6 or 7 minutes, and one lucky member gets the gong if you go over too long. It's so fun. But we have a few key themes every month, from workforce to community events to policy that we cover. And it's a great monthly kind of 360 of the community, but then you're also with about 100 people every month. It's so well attended. To create those networks and relationships. So really fun. I love that event. It's such a great, energetic way to start the day. Right. We're talking about networking, and if you've never been a member of one of the Chamber of Commerce, or you're interested in becoming a member of one of the chambers, networking is all about relationships, and it's something that you have to have that continuity. Mm-hmm. You have to be there several times for people to recognize you and talk to you and interact with you. Mm-hmm. It's not just show up once and throw your cards around and you're instantly going to get all this business. It's forming those relationships and figuring out, I guess, maybe who your people are. I mean, you want to do business with everyone, of course, but
certain people are attracted to other
Absolutely.
certain people, and you have general interests. Maybe your kids are in sports together, or you're a cyclist, or you're in a similar business, and maybe you could help each other out.
Right.
I mean, all those different interests bring people together.
Yep. Yeah. We want to create a culture at the chamber and be in the business of transformation, not just transaction.
Right.
And I think there's some communities where you can have a very transactional view, where you helicopter in, lay down a few business cards, you'll get business.
Yeah.
I don't think Tucson's that community.
It's not.
It's a community of relationship and transformation through relationship. And that requires being in the trench over the lawn haul with your fellow businesses. Yeah. And there's, like you said, Ron, there's no other place in community to do that other than a chamber.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, to throw this in there, it feels really good if you refer someone to another business, even if it doesn't help you, just to help your fellow business, make a living, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
If there's a painter or someone else that, they don't have anything to do with their business, but that you need a service and they can provide the service, and you can put those two people together. That's what it's all about.
It's beautiful.
It is. It really is. So, we were also talking the other day about candidates, and you had what were you calling it?
Yeah. At our time of recording this, we're days away from early ballots landing in your inboxes.
Right.
We were talking earlier about how
the panel, right?
Yes.
Did you have a panel?
We did.
Yeah.
So your ballot this year, it's going to be a real page turner. Literally.
It's a really long ballot.
It's going to be 2 pages front and back.
Yeah.
Maricopa's going to be 3. So, I mean, at least we can say in Pima County is only 2. But that's, of course, president all the way down.
Yeah.
And then there are 13 items on the ballot, propositions, citizens initiatives, things like that, to vote on. And so on the candidate side, the Tucson Metro Chamber does not endorse candidates. We do sit down and interview the candidates. We have a panel of about 15 of our members, balanced across Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and different business interests, that sit down and meet with all the candidates, in this case running for Pima County offices, as well as the Arizona Corporation Commission and the Pima Community College Governing Board. We interview them for about 20 minutes. We give them a questionnaire beforehand to fill out. All of those video interviews, all those questionnaires are either today or will be by October 8th.
Okay.
Public facing. And we don't tell you how to vote, but we give you also a score sheet of how our committee thought that the candidates responded to business questions and business issues on a scale of 1 to 10. So we have a rubric of about 9 things, and we give everybody a score. Okay. So we don't tell you who to vote for, but we give you kind of like a ballpark of, we think that this person on a scale of 1 to 10 is going to be really responsive and is clear on your challenges as a business.
Right.
That's on the candidate side. If you go on our website today as well, TucsonChamber.org, you can see our 2024 general election voter guide. We do support or oppose ballot items and initiatives. We've supported 3 and opposed 1 for 4 total. And again, 13 things on the ballot. We wanted to go in the direction of, we're not going to give you more noise to cut through. We're gonna try to make less. Here's the 4 things we think are important to the most of you business owners out there, and we encourage a vote in this direction or the other, yay or nay. And so that's taken up a lot of my time in my role as the VP of Business Advocacy, is putting that all together. And thanks to many incredible members who gave 15, 20 hours of their time to bring this resource to the community. We've even had media retweet it out.
Oh, wow.
Because there's not a lot of organizations that are taking the time to provide video and written content about candidates in a way that isn't, putting the thumb on the scale. And so a lot of media said, hey, go and look at the Tucson Chamber as a resource, which we thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. I mean, with elections coming up, and they're coming up really quick, every election affects the way that it affects our lives. It affects our personal lives. Yeah, real life consequences, both in business and personal. So
we were chuckling about the line. I don't know who gets the credit for it, but it's basically something to the effect of, many people say, I don't have an interest in politics or in issues or policy, but politics has an interest in you.
That's right.
If you are not at the table, you're on the menu. And we could go through many other cliches, but a lot of people just want to check out.
Yeah.
And I think the challenge for business owners, because back to how we started the conversation, we sleep differently, and that often means less.
Yeah.
We are not only business leaders, but we are also counselors and therapists. People don't know what it looks like to run a business and to run a team and run a family.
Yeah.
It is all consuming. And I think a lot of business owners either want to or are left with just kind of having to have their heads completely down and focused on their work. And completely understandable, which is why the chamber has done all this work to say, here's this sheet of paper, here's this sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Please take 7 minutes. And if you think we're on point, vote the way that we encourage you to. We've had scores of members vet these positions. This is member run. Look at this here. But it's important that business owners are civic entrepreneurs and civic leaders as well. Because there are decisions being made every single day, whether you are a part of it or not, that deeply impact your business. And I get to see that behind the scenes every day. And there are times where I'm just like, do businesses and business owners know what's coming down the pike?
Do
you know what decisions are being made? Like, I will see this vote and I will go, in 10 days, this is going to hit so many businesses positively or negatively. Do people know? It's heart-wrenching sometimes.
Yeah.
It's also very positive sometimes, but sometimes it's heart-wrenching. So we need businesses and business owners to tap in as much as they can. And that's why we provide those resources, because politics has an interest in you, whether you have an interest or not in it.
They definitely do. They definitely do. So is there anything new going on with the chamber? I know you've been working on the the candidates for all this time.
Yeah. I mean, there's always something new happening. We've been really excited to launch a new program at the chamber. I mentioned our chamber ambassadors, which are really that kind of member-facing group that celebrates small businesses of all sizes, but does the ribbon cuttings, and new members get that personal touch from our ambassadors. I just developed on my side of the chamber a program called Chamber Advocates. And the vision is to have 100 of our members who go through this training to understand, how does the chamber shape its policy agenda, and how do we advocate for it? And if we have an opportunity to go meet with a city official, or we have an opportunity to send a key letter, or to make a phone call to an office and say, hey, this thing you're about to vote on is going to make a huge difference in my business, positive or negative, and I want you to know. Our vision is to have 100 members having gone through that training that I can call and say, hey, there's a decision. You live in unincorporated Pima County.
Right.
This decision on the Board of Supervisors is going to impact you. Do you have 5 minutes to write a letter or to call? Or, hey, I'm going to go meet with this supervisor. Do you want to come with me so you can share your story in person? So we set up that program. At our first cohort of 10 people go through it and sign up and say, hey, I want to be co-advocating with chamber staff. A lot of interests in our community have kind of this grassroots, if you will, of people who can turn out and send a message. And it matters. I want business owners listening to know that your voice matters.
It does.
To policymakers. If they get 100 of our letters and 20 people showing up, that matters. Yeah. Don't think that decisions are baked necessarily behind closed doors. That public input truly matters. So we're trying to kind of build that at the chamber as well. And so that's been really exciting. And then I know something that you were wanting to talk about too is, we really are looking at 5 pillars of economic competitiveness.
Right.
And there are organizations in town that are looking to help businesses that are already here grow or to bring new business in. We're the back door where we want to keep it shut. Like we're working on what makes a strong region that keeps businesses here.
Yeah.
Once an organization like Sun Corridor brings them in, the chamber's making sure the back door is closed so that businesses don't go too much regulation, too high cost, can't find a workforce. I'm out.
Right.
And so, we're looking at those 5 pillars of economic competitiveness and trying to really storytell around how we're doing around those and where we can be improving.
Okay. And what are those 5 pillars?
So those 5 are workforce and talent, which we've talked about, quality of place, which can be schools, parks, roads, infrastructure, roads. Number 4 is economic and business climate. Is it a good place to run a business? Is it easier or harder than not? And then regional government and institutions. And there's an organization in town called Sun Corridor. They're the economic development organization in our region. Their job is to really go and sell Tucson and say, hey, come to Tucson, come grow your business here, come start your business here. And they work with a group of people called site selectors. And these are 400 of the most, whatever the number is, most powerful people you've never heard of and probably never will, of people who will look at a place like Tucson and go to Business ABC. We have all these metrics. Tucson checks the boxes. You should move there.
Oh, wow.
Big, commercial, like
when
companies.
Caterpillar came
exactly.
here.
So site selectors, are the people that look at a place like Tucson and go tell Caterpillar, hey, Tucson's a good place to do business, or Tucson's not a good place to do business. So I don't want to be Pollyannish about it. This is a very cutthroat, data-driven, world out there.
Sure.
We never know who these people are on a regular day basis, but they're making all the big decisions. In 2006, they started to track, of those 5, where are we weak and where are we strong?
Oh, okay.
And workforce and talent was a weakness, as well as infrastructure, economic and business climate, and regional government and institutions. We had work to do.
Wow.
Quality of place was a strength, which I think we know.
Yeah.
Today, we've seen a major positive progress in workforce and talent.
Okay.
We are keeping people here more. We are training people up well. Companies look at Tucson and go, I can find people to work in my business. Quality of place is still strong, but the other 3 are still weaknesses.
Wow.
We still need better infrastructure. We still need a better economic and business climate, and we need stronger, more effective regional government and institutions. And so if the chamber says, in this case, the Tucson Metro Chamber, our job is to keep the back door closed.
Yeah.
Our job is to work on those things that have been sustained challenges and barriers to business. Even as we celebrate all the good that's happening, we're also change makers to make sure that the back door stays closed and that businesses coming here and staying here go, good infrastructure, good business climate, government is working well, doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Yep. That's important. And you said that you've seen that our college graduates are staying a little bit more?
By the data.
Yeah.
By the data. They're still a donut hole.
Yeah.
The challenge before is that we were seeing U of A grads take off pretty quick.
Yeah.
We're seeing them stay in Tucson way longer. So Tucson has actually developed its entry-level work, which is good.
Okay. Yeah.
The challenge that we're still seeing is in the middle. So Tucson is becoming a better place to start a career.
Okay.
It is sure a great place to end a career.
Yeah. We have a lot of retirees here.
Great place to close down a career. But in that middle, even at Tucson Young Professionals, we would see people in their mid to late 30s go, I am tapped out of my income earning potential here. I can't make any more than I'm making now.
Yeah.
The ladder, I'm at the top of it. Like I can't, and by that I mean that mid-career, kind of that 4th, 5th, 6th job.
Right.
That level of career is still really lacking in Tucson. And my opinion is it's a result of we're still not seeing strong economic development around our 3 core kind of anchor industries, which is mining and mining technology, biosciences and health sciences, and space exploration and defense. We still need to bolster those and create those really high-paying primary jobs that create a ladder of career. We're still not there yet. And so sadly, even though we're keeping U of A graduates, we're still seeing folks kind of in their late 30s, early 40s go peace out. And saw that at TYP in real time. It was painful. And started in the recession, and we still haven't recovered from that.
Okay. Do you think the school districts have something to do with it, not just the quality of education with the school districts?
Yeah, I mean that's a huge metric as well in that quality of place, I think, bucket. And there are improvements that need to be made in some school districts. My kids go to a TUSD school, and it's one of the success stories in TUSD. So I'm always trying to make sure that people know that there are good things happening in the largest school district, second largest in the state. It's here, in Tucson Unified School District. But that is definitely something that people look at is the quality of education. And with the size and scope of TUSD, there's just automatically some intrinsic challenges that we still haven't, solved yet.
Yeah, definitely. I think they've had one of the biggest challenges just with the charter schools, their popularity and being able to put your kids in different schools across town. I think TUSD has had had some challenges that maybe they haven't met all of the challenges yet.
Yeah, education is complicated. Well, I won't even open that can of worms because, we won't get to the end.
Right.
So
right. But you have a young family, and so you're trying to make sure that they're placed where they need to be so that they can get the education. My kids went to the oldest two went to charter school for their elementary, and then we switched them over to public school. They're in the Amphi district, and they got a good education through there. They all three of my kids graduated from CDO. But one of the main reasons that it's good.
I'm
school.
a Mountain Viewer. CDO is where I wanted to go, but I'm just kidding. Mountain View was very good to me.
Right.
But CDO is a great school.
Yeah, it's an older school. It's older than Ironwood Ridge, but it's a really good school, and they had a good sports program, and my kids were involved with sports. So we wanted to make sure that they're somewhere that they could be. And there was 1 year during COVID, of course, that we considered possibly moving them just because sports wasn't an option. Yeah, that was hard. The COVID years in school were really hard.
My kids are young enough to where they weren't in school during that.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what it was like to be a parent having to figure out that piece with school-age kids.
Yeah.
What a mess.
It was. It was really a mess. Yeah. Just to touch on it a little bit. I mean, luckily, our youngest was the only one that was still in school. He was in high school, so it wasn't so much of his developmental years. He wasn't like in first grade or third grade. But yeah, there is a lot of challenges to do school online, and just from the connections to getting the proper lessons or getting the proper help. If you didn't understand everything,
right?
It was kind of a lost year,
right?
Yeah. So lost year in academics and the lost year in sports. So it was tough. It was tough on the kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we've gone through pretty much everything that we've talked about, or that we wanted to talk about. And we're running a little bit. I think we're right at about 10 o'clock here. Oh no, that clock's behind. But we're let's go ahead and we'll end it here. Thank you, Zach. Thank you for coming in and talking to us. And it was a great interview.
Well, thanks, Ron. Yeah. Congratulations on the show. And thanks for allowing me to be a part of the breaking of the ice. And it sounds like you've got some incredible guests coming up next. And so I hope your listeners continue to stay tuned. And thanks for all you do for business and do for chambers. And
thank you. You also.
Thanks for your investment and what you do. And it's making a difference.
Yeah. Let's go out there and make Tucson a healthy place for everyone to do business.
Let's do it.
Yep. All right. And that's this episode of Southwest Flavor. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.